Hi, class. For this lecture, we're going to look at leadership qualities in the classroom. Give me a second here. Okay. All right. So basically, we're going to explore the essential leadership qualities that we as educators should possess in order to establish a healthy classroom environment. So we're going to emphasize the significance of leadership qualities, promoting student engagement, enhancing motivation, and fostering a sense of belonging. And so good leadership is, it's very pivotal in making sure that we're creating learning environments that are productive and inclusive. And, effective leadership qualities enhance students' academic performance, but it also is going to nurture social and emotional development. Now, we have to remember that when it comes to our classrooms and really just any environment we find ourselves in, we always want to strive to be positive and productive. Example for others, especially in the classroom, because our tone, our attitude, our mood states, our emotional intelligence, that's all going to set the tone and create the learning environment, so we're going to set the example for our students on how we want them to engage. All right. So in establishing a positive rapport, of course, it's important that we build relationships with our students. So we never want to come at our students with any biases or stereotypes. We always want to look at them each as their own individuals with special gifts to give back to society, right? And as teacher, we are helping them, um, you know, find their gifts and polish their gifts and hopefully build upon their special gifts to give back to society. And we do that through creating a positive learning environment, right? One way that we do that is through active listening. And so, with active listening, a lot of times when we go to talk, we get in conversations, and rather than truly listening to what the other person is saying, we're in our head thinking about how we're going to respond, what we're going to say next, right? And so, active listening is just about that. It's about slowing down and truly hearing what your students are saying to you and doing that and then doing a safe space in our learning environment. And there's a saying that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen more and talk less. And so we also want to be empathetic in the way that we listen to our students. So we want to be able to empathize and relate to them. And also, when it comes to listening, we want to be able to parrot back, basically. So, you want to listen in a way that you relay the information back to the student. Whatever the student is telling you, you're going to relay it back to them to make sure that you did indeed understand what they are saying. All right. And then, of course, with active listening, we're encouraging our students to share their thoughts and concerns, questions, comments, concerns, all a part of active listening. And then in establishing a positive rapport in our classrooms, also encouraging open communication. So, you're going to do that by seeking students' feedback as a way to help understand what their learning needs are. You're going to show interest in their opinions and ideas. And, that's going to help foster a sense of ownership and belonging for the students, of course. And then, of course, we always want to be inclusive in our classrooms. And so, well, like I said, it's realizing that we are all unique individuals with our own special gifts to give to society. And at the same time, it's realizing that we are all diverse individuals. So it's definitely important that we respect diversity and in respecting diversity, that's where we're to be able to accommodate students and their diverse learning abilities. We want to emphasize the need for respectful dialogue, not just between student teacher relationships, but between peer relationships too, so that we're helping our students, develop compassion, respect, and understanding for diversity, right? And then we want to foster a collaborative learning environment. And so, that's a great way for different individuals to work together. And, you can do that by encouraging group work, cooperative learning, and, by fostering a collaborative learning environment, we're promoting team building skills and building a sense of unity among our students. So, we're creating that family in a way, creating that safe space where we're all learning and sharing together, and everybody feels empowered in their learning. All right. So when it comes to effective and structured leadership, there are a few key points we can look into. So number one, we want to have clear and structured instruction. And, that comes in the form of our rubrics, our assignments, those learning goals and objectives that we are establishing in our classrooms. That's all ways to set our guidance and expectations for our students, and also a way for students to feel more empowered in their learning, because they have they have this information. And consistent routines and procedures is another way that we provide leadership in our classrooms. And it's going to help students. That clear and structured instruction is also going to help students understand the purpose and relevance of their lessons. There's always ways that you could tie the information back to the real world. And then, we definitely want to engage and motivate our students. And so we do that by having varied instructional strategies. And so basically what we want to do is play around with different pedagogies and different types of assignments and different ways that students learn. Some students are going to be more visual, some students are going to be more hands-on, and it's just going to you have to keep yourself adaptable and flexible to accommodate your students. And then of course we want to recognize and foster student strengths. And so you acknowledge and leverage students' talents to help build their confidence. And then we provide opportunities for our students to showcase their unique skills and abilities. All right. And so now we have transformational leadership. So this is expiring and visionary leadership. Like I said, we set the tone, we set the stage for how our classrooms are going to go. Anytime I've ever taught a class in person, my thoughts, no matter what's been going on that day, what stress I'm going through in my life, I never take that in my classroom, never take that on my students. I feel like if I have to go teach a 4 or 5 hour class in one day, then I am going to make the most of that experience. It's going to be, I'm there to have a good time, and I won't have it any other way. So, you always will have that kind of mindset. You got to like take everything that's going on and leave it outside your classroom, because it doesn't concern your classroom or your students. Now, of course, you may be like, well, Professor Moore, what if you have a difficult student? That can definitely affect the tone of your classroom. And that the way you handle that is going to come down to whatever policies your school has in handling those types of students. But at the same time, when you have personalities that want to be difficult in life, want to be argumentative, want to be negative, best way that you can respond to that is by not letting it affect you. Because a lot of times those personalities, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to react. And when don't let their negativity influence you, that's really going to change the way that those people communicate with you. Right. And so with transformational leadership, basically we want to articulate and communicate a clear vision. So we're going to inspire our students to set goals, develop a growth mindset, get them interested and motivated in whatever it is they're learning. And then, of course, that is then going to lead to fostering a culture of aspiration and continuous improvement. So your students are going to be motivated, they're going to be excited, going to want to learn the material, and they're going to want to continue to learn. All right. And then, of course, we want to encourage autonomy and personalized learning. So we do that by supporting our individual students' goals, which allows them to, feel more empowered with their learning because they're taking ownership of their learning. And then, of course, we want to provide opportunities for our students to explore their interests and pursue independent projects. So, what I like to tell my students is that whatever class you are taking, especially when it comes to classes and you have to write papers, always try to find a way to write that paper on something that's interesting to you, and not just interesting as in like, oh, I like puppies, I want to write about puppies. No, do it as something that's going to be relevant to your future career. So I'll give you examples. So when I was in my undergraduate degree and I was working on, majoring in archaeology, if I took any kind of like the communication classes or English classes, I would always try to find a way to write those papers on something that related to archaeology. Because, when I got to the end of that degree, we had to do like a bachelor's thesis, which is, basically like a PhD, but not as entailed to where, you had to write a final research paper on a topic of your choice. And then, and I found that by, already having research and having information on archaeology, it made it a lot easier for me to go and do that bachelor's thesis. The same thing with my master's degree, and same thing with working on my PhD in psychology, and looking into animal assisted therapy. Any class that I take, I always try to write my papers on something that relates to that. So when I get to that 20,000 million page PhD thesis that I'm eventually going to have to write, instead of starting with a blank page, I've already got all this information and I've already got research that I can use as a springboard, for writing that PhD. And so I always encourage my students to do that. Like say in my philosophy classes I teach, students have to write different case studies, and sometimes they're like, "Well, Professor Moore, I don't know what to write about." And I'm like, "Well, what's your career? What are the ethical issues that relate to your job right now? Try to always tailor it to where the students can be individual and make it relevant to what they're doing in life." So hopefully that makes sense. And then, of course, a key part of being a good leader is, to have high emotional intelligence and to be supportive. It's like I said, no matter what's going on in our lives, that's not our students' fault, and it's not anybody else's fault. You should no one should never take their anger out on anybody else. It gets you nowhere, right? All it does is just eat up all your energy and make things more miserable. And who wants to live life being miserable? And like I said, once again, when it comes to our jobs, who really wants to go in their classroom and be miserable teaching it? If you do feel that way, then that's probably not the career for you, right? So it's important that we understand our emotions and what's going on in our head so that we don't take our negativity out on our students. And then, it's also important that we understand and manage emotions so that we are acknowledging our students' feelings, and we're cultivating that supportive classroom environment. And we can do this in our classroom, and we can also do this in our own personal lives. So, to help create high emotional intelligence to help create that positive learning environment. And we can teach promote. What I like to do is at the beginning of my live classes, we always do a very simple mindfulness exercise. And actually, it's just a basic breathing exercise. And it's a way to calm your body, clear your mind so that you are focusing on what's going on in class. Like I said, it's about setting that mental space, because as much as we have that physical environment of our classroom, our mental state plays, or an emotional state plays a role in that too. So anything that we can do to provide that positive and productive environment is going to translate over to our students. And then, of course, being a responsive and empathetic leader as a way to help us address our individual students' needs and demonstrate care and concern. And, by being responsive and empathetic, we are also creating opportunities for social emotional learning and reflection. All right, guys. So that wraps up our lecture on leadership qualities in the classroom. So leadership qualities are pivotal in helping to shape those positive learning environments. It's going to foster strong relationships with our students. We're going to establish those clear structures, objectives, and guidelines on what we expect of our students and how our classes are going to go. And then all of that is going to help us embody that transformational leadership, which is then how we create that inclusive and motivating environment that allows our students to thrive. And so when we embrace these qualities, we're going to enrich our classrooms, enhance those learning outcomes, and then, that's going to help cultivate well-rounded individuals. And there are my references, guys. So just remember, we always want to provide support for our work, no matter what we're doing, what class we're in. APA always follows a pattern. Well, it's not a pattern, but it's a formula. It's always who wrote it, when did they write it, what is it, and where did you get it from? And so look at my posts, look at my guidances, see how I set the AP up on these PowerPoint for these lectures, and use those as models to help you with citing your sources. And then, of course, if you need any help with setting up a source, just reach out to me, guys. I'm more than happy to help with that, or just anything that you need help with, you can always reach out to me. So, all right, guys, thanks. Bye.